They are doing all sorts of communal land, the way where it sits now, under the custodian of traditional leaders, it's a problem. There's nothing, there's no problem. As long as community members will be able to access the land and have title, because it is their land. We're not threatening any traditional leader here. It must be understood. And in fact, we are fighting over a bone that has got no meat, because the land that we're fighting about is not productive. There's no water there. Those are areas that we used to call homelands. There's nothing, it's barren. There's dust, the soil is not productive. Those areas were carefully selected. You see people staying over mountains. They can't plow anything. So why do you fight about this? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Thank you. Honorable Deputy President, we come to question 11 asked by Honorable Labuschagne.
House Chair, Honorable Labuschagne goes back to the same issue of the communal land tenure bill. The honorable member should remember that communal land refers to land inhabited by African communities in what we used to call former homelands, which according to apartheid laws could not be registered in the South African native's name and continues to be held by the state in the democratic era. Let me restate that land in traditional communities belongs to the people. Therefore, the objective of the Communal Land Bill is to clarify in detail how security of tenure is addressed and to remove any confusion around land ownership and use as prescribed under customary law. However, there's been a distortion of customary law that at times affects security of tenure of people living in communal land. To address this point, the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform has published the Communal Land Tenure Bill for public comments. The bill provides for the transfer of ownership of communal land to communities that occupy such land. It further provides for the transfer of ownership of residential portions that are currently occupied by community members to such community members. It is therefore envisaged that under this bill, these communities will have title deeds for their communal land, and members of communities will have title deeds for their residential and business portions. The process of soliciting public comments has been concluded. The department is currently considering all comments put forward as we are working towards the finalization of the bill. It will thus be premature to speculate more or less the outcome of this process and the public comments. You will realize that this matter is close to the heart of South Africans. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Labuschagne.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy President, for your answer. In the light of the fact that the communal land tenure bill that you referred to is in in progress. We are all aware that there are still problems with the CPAs, and I would like to draw your view to the fact that there are a few distorting facts. One of it, the government spends more money on VIP politicians than land reform. There are tens of thousands of South Africans living in abject poverty in rural South Africa with no security of tenure. The DA visited more than 1,500 of these South Africans in the Guaichu community and discovered firsthand the lack of government action. An elderly man in that community was forced off his land on the very same day you were answering oral questions in the National Assembly on communal land tenure, Deputy President. Yet the Guaichu Communal Property Association remain unregistered and without ownership of the land that they have lived on for generations. While we welcome the Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform's commitment yesterday for a land rights inquiry to be presented to the department, this promise speaks only to the delivery of a land audit and is dead silent on the registration of CPAs that is 2 years overdue. What plan of action does your government have to ensure that the Guaichu CPA is registered, and if any, what is the deadline for this registration? Thank you, Deputy President.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. House Chair, the honourable member is talking about a specific CPA. I might not be quite aware of the details why the CPA is not registered, and I'll be glad to follow up that matter to understand why. Because if it's a CPA, when it is elected, the Department of Rural Development and Land Affairs becomes part of that meeting. Monitor the elections of the CPA, and the term of office is determined, and the CPA, right from that meeting, becomes a recognized entity. Now, why this is not recognized, I'll have to find out. Well, coming to the principle itself of a CPA, whether it's a workable model or not. Because in most instances, the CPA members, they are bogged down with infightings. They don't till the land. At times, they find the land productive, and the production level of the land goes down each day, because they are no longer focusing on the production. But when you go to the Freedom Charter says the land shall be shared amongst those who work it. So people must work the land. Well, there's one category of people that are saying, we've been removed from our land, we can show that we're staying there. But some of those people, they come and say, no, now I'm no longer staying in that land, I'm putting a claim, but in exchange, I want money. Which I think that should be discouraged. If you claim land, you must work the land. Because that land, you find it productive, and you must increase the production of that land. We are not challenging the claim itself. You might have been removed, incorrectly so, but when your right is restored, till the land. The production capacity of South Africa has gone down, I'm sure, because of the slow pace, the uncertainty of land redistribution and restitution. So we must have a resolve. We must resolve on how best we want to conduct this process. But the bottom line of this process, the rights of people on their land must be restored. But these people must till the land. Asibhekanga ukuthi abantu bathola umhlaba bese bayolala phansi kwezihlahla nje. Abantu ufuna basebenze. Bawulime lo mhlaba. Thank you.
Thank you. The next supplementary question is from Honorable Ngwenya. Honorable Ngwenya.
Thank you, Deputy President Sialocha. A key problem that is regarding this communal land and all land in South Africa for that matter is the lack of access that women have to the land. For the last 24 years of democracy, the government has failed to distribute land to black people, but especially to black women. The most logical step government can take to address this issue is to expropriate the land without compensation to equal distribution, of which women should be the key beneficiaries. But my question to you, Deputy President, what do you believe has been the reason why government has failed in distributing land to women specifically? And what is the government's commitment to remedy this? Considering that we are left with less than 2 years before we come to an end of the decade of empowering women, which was from 2010 to 2020, what is the government's commitment to giving women land? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. The question is spot on, that there is a section of our community that has been lagging behind, that is still engulfed with all sorts of problems of the past. And that section of our community are women and young girls. Well, a fair amount of progress has been made, but scattered. I mean, our effort to try and restore land to women has been scattered. Now we need an integrated approach, because I'll tell you what, that there is land, that it's in communal land, communal areas. There is land that is in the hands of government that can be given to those women, put them together, allow them to till the land. So it's not a question of really the lack of land. Land we have. Some of you who might have visited my former province where I was working, you will be aware of a program called Fortune 40. Fortune 40, it's a group of young girls grouped together. They are given a farm. If they decide to grow chicken, government will support them and put those broilers and give them the first stock of chicken, the small ones, then they grow that way. Some are given cattle, they go into stock farming, some they go into vegetable farming. So the program is spreading. I'm not saying this is the only project. I'm aware that rural development has done a lot of projects, but our efforts are not coordinated. So we can't realize the impact that we want. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. Deputy President, we now come to question 12. Last from your list, coming from Honorable Dr. Matime.
Thank you, House Chair. The question here is about the Human Resource Development Council. On the 10th to 11th May this year, House Chair, we hosted the 3rd Human Resource Development Council Summit that was attended by similar institutions from elsewhere in the region with an intention to develop new networks, strengthen existing partnerships, and share the latest lessons on how, through education and skills transfer, we can transform our economies in the light of the emerging trends in the global economy, especially the implications of what is termed the fourth industrial revolution. At that summit, a point was made that the pace of change over the last few years has largely been shaped by technological disruptions and innovations. These disruptions have an equal impact on the current set of jobs in the market. This means that as we continue to focus on the skills development, we must bear in mind that even jobs that were considered as vocational are now becoming high-tech and require specialized knowledge and skills. This reality suggests that digital disruption will impact on how we do things. Therefore, as South Africa, we need to embrace this global trend or risk becoming less competitive on the global stage. As part of this embrace, our training and skills development must be accelerated to keep up with the pace of change. For our part as government, the Department of Science and Technology is currently investing in the technological building blocks of this revolution. To this effect, it will develop a public-funded science, technology, and innovation plan of action over the next 12 to 18 months for socio-economic impact in the context of this revolution that we're speaking about. Through smart investment in research and development, the Department of Science and Technology is supporting South African industry to grow and create more jobs through building scientific, technological, and knowledge-based capabilities. We need a private sector that is engaged so that as a country we can unlock the full potential of education and training sector. Future value creation lies in humans and machines working together to create a new user experience, new product and new services, and new possibilities. We must therefore put relevant programs in place to develop the necessary skills through rethinking education system and incentivizing lifelong learning. This is why investment in early childhood development is critical. For its part, the Human Resource Development Council has held roadshows to create awareness regarding the Human Resource Development Strategy towards 2030 with various structures, including the Provincial Human Resource Development Forums, Provincial Human Resource Development Councils, Provincial Skills Development Forums, Public Sector Trainers Forums, and all these institutions that are involved in skills training. Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you. The first supplementary question is from Honorable Dr. Matime.
House Chairperson, thank you very, very much. Mohlomphegi Motlatša-Mopresidente wa Republic ya Afrika Borwa, ke leboga karabo ye le filego setšhaba le re sedimoša gore le rena re le badudi ba naga ye re ka se šalele morago ga fourth industrial revolution e fihla e tšwela pele. Deputy President, oftentimes programs of this nature will favor, if you consider the urban-rural divide,
programs of this nature will tend to favor the urban side. Then we also go to the previously historically disadvantaged. They also become the actor ose. Can we be reassured, my leader, that as we enter this fourth industrial revolution, we will do so in an equitable manner? Meaning, uribala neba sa khwetše matše khale, ibi bona re ba tlhokomelang. Can we become sensitive and implement these new programs in an equitable manner, my leader? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. This fourth industrial revolution can only happen when there's a society that is capable enough to drive its own development. Now, a society that is not capable will be left behind. We can only be capable by preparing ourselves, by educating our children, by giving our children skills, the necessary skills, move with the current artificial technologies so that we are always up to date as a nation. Then in that way, we'll be able to lead our own development. In the case of our country, from where we come from, we must separate between two things. Right from when we got our freedom as a country, from that day, we should have said, no child must be found at home if that child is of school-going age, so that there's a break from the past. Now, we have got people that already the damage has been done. You see, when you take your car to a motor mechanic, panel beaters, at times they tell you, hey, this car is beyond repair. That means we can't fix it. It's too damaged. Now, as we were talking earlier, we were talking about programs that we're initiating as government, your CWP, your EPWP. These are programs that are trying to pull the rest so that finally they acquire a skill. You can't have a South African who does not have a skill, because such a South African will hinder our progress, our movement forward. Collectively, we possess a strength. That is why it's important that for this country to develop further, we must acknowledge as a country the wrongs of the past and collectively fix them. Now, what should happen? We are undermining ourselves, our potential, because there's still these racial tendencies amongst ourselves. But when I look at this country has got very big potential. The way we address one another, some nations are moving forward. We are trapped in things that are meaningless for advancement. Now, if we can all of us acknowledge that, let's give our young people, let's give everyone in the country a skill. All the programs of government that are designed to give people skills must be prioritized. And I'm happy that if you're complaining about the abuse of such programs that are designed to give people skills, it is our terrain where we must protect our resources as a country to ensure that they go to the rightful beneficiaries, but the end results is that we will have a nation that is capable to develop itself. Our young people, yes, they are in the schooling system, they've graduated. I'm not very sure standing here, given the fact that yesterday, in the last quarter, we were told that our economy has just gone down. Our prospects that we had, no, we're going to grow at 1.5%. That dream seemed to be shattered. Why? Why? Is it because we don't have the necessary people? When I go around, I'm told that, no, we've got graduates who are moving around without employment. How come? Maybe these graduates, they followed skills that are not in demand, because your economy is looking for particular skills. Now, the role of this Human Resource Development Council is to evaluate the demand out there in our economy and then respond to the demand, prepare people to go and access those opportunities there. A country like ours, we should have invested a lot in mining. We should have invested a lot in agriculture, because those are critical sectors of our economy that makes us. So we should be advanced, and we should have probably invested a lot in giving our people skills around there. I can go on and on and on, but the fact of the matter is that those that are in the cracks, those that have not completed school, there's an effort. The Minister of Higher Education will be launching something called a community college. Something less than a TVET college that will allow you to go in, even without any qualification. But you'll get out of that community college with a skill. We need everyone to have a skill. Then you'll see the movement forward is going to be a bit faster. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The next supplementary question is from Honorable Mtimunye. Honorable Mtimunye.
Thank you, House Chair. Deputy President, in the past few years, the country has developed a policy around human resource development that was GIPSA, which was attached to the former President Thabo Mbeki in the main. And concurrent to that, there was an economic policy called GIE. They have since been incorporated in what is now the National Blueprint, the NDP. Now, talking Fourth Industrial Revolution, Deputy President, and you earlier in your response made reference to former homeland Bantustans, places in which people were dumped, and there's no real-term economic activities that are happening there. I'm talking about the Nkethu Langbeakona in Runakulu Sekela Mongambil. And a few years ago, the transport minister has come to this house and undertaken that and made a commitment that
for the benefit of the house, they will want to understand the response. Honorable President, and specify for the benefit of the house.
Deputy President Langbeakona, one rebel. Langbeakona, Deputy President, there was a commitment, and I want to believe this project fits properly and perfectly in the fourth industrial revolution, in the context of developing skills to see that project realizing, and coupled with that, the declaration of special economic zone in that area. The Moloto Rail coupled with special economic zone. What is your thinking around that, so that we can ignite the economic development in that area?
Honorable Deputy President.
Well, House Chair, the way I listen to the question, it's like I must commit myself that this project is going to happen. Well, all what I can say to the honorable member through you, House Chair, is that it's a project that was adopted by government, of which I'm part of that government. And I'm aware that there are efforts to try and get that project back on track. Because the reality is that you have got a very big working population that is always in transit between former Wandebele and Pretoria, and a lot of people are dying on that road. All attempts have been made to expand the road, but it's quite clear that it just gets congested and congested. So the Mloto Rail Development Corridor, it's now a necessity. If you want to allow that community a better link, access to their job opportunities, and to allow them to develop to a different level, to have new problems than having an old problems forever. I'm sure there will be movement in that regard. Well, we must notice that as a country, as much as we want to move forward, we've got our own constraints. We might not have been wise in terms of our choices, where we must invest, but what I can tell you is that this government, over the past 10 years or so, our investment in infrastructure is starting to yield the necessary results. We could have insisted on building, continue from the 2010 mood of building stadiums and all that. We should have sustained. We will be far now in terms of access, economic activities, get our people active in their own economy. I'm sure government will find a way of reigniting the infrastructure development program. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy President, you can kindly now go back to your seat. You have answered all the questions.
Thank you.
Honorable members, order. Honorable members, on behalf of the leadership of the NCOP, led by Memo Dise, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Deputy President, Honorable Titi Mabuza, for availing themselves to answer questions in the NCOP. That concludes the business of the day. Honorable members, you are requested to remain standing until the procession has left the House. The House is adjourned.
You're watching SA Today. It's nearly 4 p.m. Now, that was a live crossing to Parliament in Cape Town.